One's approach to life is the most important thing. And when you start to understand that each person has their nature, what do you know your nature? And then once you know your nature and you're on a journey to find your click, find the fit that is the thing that allows your nature to flourish and deal with other people when they know their nature.
I think taxes and philanthropy each have their roles. I think philanthropy serves the purpose of being able to say that this thing, on the money that you've earned, you can focus on those things that you think are most important to you. I think the problem exists when, whether it's an absence of philanthropy or an absence of taxation, that there is a failure to deliver that result.
It's so interesting to me, and I think it's interesting to you probably, that thoughtful disagreement to get at truth and to just cut through it isn't a joy for everybody. And psychologists examine this because they say so many people form a conclusion and have a amygdala response that it's an attack if there's disagreement.
Do you think the system is delivering those results? If you want to take the time to look at it point by point from an engineering, how much of it is because of technology replacing the middle class? You could look on the LinkedIn piece and piece by piece. Find something there that you disagree with, and I'd be happy to respond to it.
You know how the thing works. If the pulse of the economy goes down, then the policymakers, like doctors, rush to the patient and inject it with a whole lot of stimulation. And so what they did is they wrote out a bunch of checks, and they're writing out a lot of checks, which are about 5 to 7 times the size of the hole. And they got that money out. And what that did was, of course, the government doesn't have money. They can't print money, so they have to borrow that money. But the Federal Reserve can print money. And so the same thing that is happening like on March 5th, 1933, is the same thing now in terms of that big stimulation. So the way it works is real interest rates are so bad, money's so cheap, and it's so abundant that it changes a lot of financial assets, and it causes those financial asset prices to rise. And when they rise, future expected returns go down to start to approach those of bonds and the risk-free return. Things like the wealth tax might be a litmus test. But in any case, I think that there is a big movement to deal with those gaps I'm referring to. So we should expect significant increases in taxes and so on in various ways. When we cut corporate taxes, that benefited stock prices. Depending on how the tax rates are changed and so on, that will certainly affect asset prices, capital flows. I think you'll see the easier ways to tax wealth become more popular, such as stepped up basis. In other words, nowadays, when you die, if your assets appreciated, you don't have to pay the capital gains tax on that and the inheritance tax. I think that's probably in jeopardy. And I think that you'll find different other types, property taxes, other things, they may come about. But that's my thought on the wealth taxes in general.
We have a system that I think is a beautiful system that connects, but it's imperfect, that it connects productivity or what you're giving to what you're getting back. And those people generally are, I'd say almost, are net contributors to the society. And it's a dream. That was what the American dream was, okay? Have the results that we want. We have to make it a fair game. This is a community. This is a place that we don't want to move, but it does have effect in terms of dollars and so on. And that was small in the scope of everything in that notion. So the important thing here is to pull together and to do this. My wife has been doing this for 10 years. This is not a new program that we're doing. We've been doing this for 10 years. And if you look at what the other people in Bridgewater have done in terms of the contributions, in total, we've paid over $1 billion in taxes over the last 10 years. The philanthropic has been about $250 million donations. I personally believe that if you don't make public education pervasively excellent, the way that I had, and operate that way, that's not adequate. And when I say I believe, it's my wife who believes this too. She's led the way. I watch her go into these schools and watch these teachers, and I look at the starvation, essentially, the financial and in some cases nutritional starvation that goes on in the public school systems. And I think that that's a national problem. But it's not just school systems.
The way it is, it's almost like a casino making its money. The way that you do it is you get an edge. So now when you have to make a bet, I've got to bet against the whole world. The world has view on something is reflected in the price. So when I think something is attractive or unattractive, that means I have to bet against the whole world and whether that's right or not. That's difficult. I get it right, more often than I get it wrong, but I'm going to get it wrong sometimes.
I find that it's very difficult. Is saying that it's more difficult to give away money than it is to make it, and that's true because you don't have a feedback mechanism. If you're wasting money and you're running a business, then your costs will exceed your revenues and you'll go broke, and so it'll be self-correcting. When you're dealing with things philanthropically, you don't have that same kind of feedback loop, and so it becomes a challenge. But it's exciting, so I guess that's how I feel.